Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, folks of all stripes, and distinguished guests, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for diehard Houston sports fans. From a diehard Houston sports fan, I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite diehard Astros fan podcaster. Feel free to add as many additional qualifiers to that statement to make it true. I'm an actor, improviser, writer, creative multi-hyphenate, and of course, and most importantly, I might add, I'm a proud Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. Yes, I used to live in the Heights when it was more used car lots than bar restaurants. And I've spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer here in Los Angeles, and now, like everybody else in town, I'm podcasting. That's what happens when you hit 10 years out here. You start absent-mindedly calling it the 10 instead of I-10, and you start podcasting. Welcome to said podcast. Space Cadet Sports started as a passion project because most media is infuriating as a diehard long-term fan of the Houston Astros, and here we aren't doom and gloom casual fans or worse, the national media haters. We love our teams and root them on, but also try to discuss the ins and outs of our teams without too much homerism. The key word here, of course, is try. On this episode, we're back from vacation. We had a lot to be grateful for. We took a week off, and the Texans are back in contention, plus the Rockets continue to look impressive, and the Astros winner hot stove. At this point, I'd like to welcome returning listeners and welcome new listeners to what my brothers call the Paul Broad Pod Ball Blog. Hey, brothers. Shout out to my brothers. They're both Milford men. Shout out to Arrested Development fans. And shout out to the subscribers on the Substack. That's spacecadetsports.substack.com. You can check that out for the full blog experience or the full blog experience, depending on your interpretation of my mumbles here. As always, we're recording this transmission here in sunny Los Angeles, where I'm joined by my co-host and co-producer, the Ross to my Frasier. Carla, the dog, is here with me. Longtime listeners of the podcast know that she may get on mic from time to time. She's got the hot takes on this podcast. I've got the cool takes. In a world of ridiculous sports podcasters, emotional overreactions, hot takes, and just straight up dudes yelling that their opinion is fact, I'm at least honest with you that I'm ridiculous. I'm a comedian. I'm an entertainer. On top of that, I'm a diehard fan. I try to take the long view. I try to remember that we've elected to be fans and that there are bigger dragons in this world to fight right now, so why torture ourselves by letting these sports bros rile up our emotions? Here we try to be a little bit more reasonable. I mean, to an extent. Look, I'm still a trash-talking clown, and I get in my emotions just like anyone else. I don't want to be a hypocrite. Of course, we all feel some kind of a way about sports at sometimes. I just want to admit off the top, I'm an entertainer. I'm a diehard fan. I'm a clown. So be warned. But just about anybody in media, that's what they are. This is entertainment. Let's just try to remember that. And let's get to it. Good day, mates. I want to wish a good day, mates, to all my listeners as we get to the A block here. We have a lot to catch up on. I took a week off. More than a week, let's be honest, folks. But I'm very happy to be back. But I had a Thanksgiving break. I had a lot to be thankful for. On top of all the food that I ate. Had a lot of casseroles. I love casseroles. I love all food, but food in casserole form, when it is done like correctly, when it is like not just all mush, unless that's the texture you want, that's the texture you need in a casserole. You know, I love a good casserole. So Thanksgiving's a big holiday for me because I love. I actually, even though I'm a slender man, I'm not the slender man, but I am a slender man. I love eating. I just want to be on record in case, the government is scrubbing all these podcasts with AI. I am not the slender man. I am just a slender man. Look, you gotta be careful what you say out here on the internet. People gonna get these sound bites. Gonna say that I'm out here claiming I'm the slender man. No, I love eating on the holidays. I'm like Wimpy. For those of you who are geriatric millennials, I'm not saying I am Wimpy. Well, that is true as well. I'm like the Popeye character Wimpy. I just carry a fork and knife around with me everywhere I go with a bib. I guess the the more common reference, or a reference that most of us would be understand perhaps, would be Joey Tribbiani. But I decided to reach back for the most ancient cartoon reference I could, and I guess it's just so I could call myself Wimpy. I'm already calling myself Wimpy and a Slender Man. It's not going off well for me, but I am very grateful. On top of being a self-deprecating comedian, I'm grateful to be able to spend time with so much family and friends, to be grateful for all the things that I have, and I was grateful I took a week off. But I'm happy to be back with the podcast here, folks. I mean, I could talk about my whole week for a while now. There was a baby shower in there. There was a lot to talk about, a lot to be grateful for, but we do have football to get to. I'm sure I'll have some podcast at some point where you could catch up with me personally. We don't need to do it now, unless that's what you want. Write in. Let me know, folks. You want me to just stop talking about sports and call myself the Slender Man? Let me know. But let's talk about the Texans. We have a lot to catch up on with the Texans, not just me personally. The Texans beat the Indianapolis Colts 20-16 since we've last talked. I was able to catch that game in Houston with family, so that was extra special. It was a tough one at times, but they were able to grit out a win against the Colts, or the Horseshoes, as my mom called them. I thought it was cute. My stepdad thought, it was the most hilarious thing he's ever heard. Got a good laugh out of everybody. I thought it was cute to call them the Horseshoes. It makes sense. Their logo is a horseshoe. It might be a little ridiculous, but that's what your logo is. I understand if anybody's like, oh, I guess the Houston Bulls. I don't know. If you don't watch sports, it's a valid guess. But the Texans beat the Horseshoes 20-16, and I mean, what a great gritty win, and happy for fans in Houston, happy for fans in Indianapolis and everywhere else to kind of be in their tears about us. I mean, a win for sure that won't set the world on fire. How about yours? But a much needed win for fans and the team alike. We essentially, if the Texans had any hopes of winning the AFC South, they had to go through Indy. They have to beat them twice, essentially. I don't think there's any other way around it, especially with Jacksonville doing so well. So that's a good first step in potentially winning the AFC South. I'm not holding my breath. That's not their only path to the playoffs. I'm not trying to say it's AFC South champs or bust, but it would be nice. It would be a nice feather in your cap, in your H-Town blue H-hat or cap. That's a reference I'm trying to make, right? I don't know. Look, it's been a while since I've been on the podcast, since I've been on the mic. You'll have to forgive me. But it was a great win, if not the most confident inducing win for fans. It was a confidence building win, which is something that the Texans needed. Once again, I'm trying to say, Nick Caley, while it wasn't the most wild and aggressive offensive play calling day, it was a step in the right direction in that game. The defense played admirably. 20 points is enough to win the game for the Texans. So the offense did well. The defense did well in that game, even if it wasn't a lot to write home about. And then just this past Sunday, the Texans, your Houston Texans, beat the Kansas City Chiefs 20-10. Just a couple days ago, Sarah and Carla and I were able to watch that one from home. Sunday Night Football there. On that game, my mom, who those of you who listen to the podcast, Mom went to her first tailgate against the Buffalo Bills at NRG. My mom went to the game in Kansas City with my stepdad, of course. She didn't just go out there by herself. But I mean, my mom went out there, braved the cold, was in her cute Texans beanie, got nosebleed seats. Well, not nosebleed. She was pretty high up there. I really I don't want to call it no. I don't want to disparage the seats. There are plenty of good people in those seats. But no, my mom was at the game in Kansas City at Arrowhead. She was able to see this win. So some huge wins for my mom this season. Going to some big games, getting some wins for us. It was a great win for the Texans, great win and experience for my mom. She is not frozen. She's currently thawing out in the kitchen sink next to the chicken. No, she's doing great. I definitely have been texting her, want to give her a call soon. But but mom, shout out to my mom for braving that. She got us the dub there. But the Texans winning this game, it's so funny how the script can flip. When the national media puts a white hat on your team instead of the black hat. While last week, the Texans were kind of the bad guys beating Indy in a gritty game. The Texans were the good guys this week, knocking the Chiefs' playoff hopes down a big peg or a big rung. One of those. I think either one of those metaphors work. I don't know. Write in. Let me know how I'm doing mixing my metaphors. I think while the Chiefs, while the Chiefs aren't completely eliminated from playoff contention, they are eliminated from AFC West champs, division champs potential, I believe, with this loss. That's a huge step in knocking the Chiefs' huge run of success, down there for a little bit. And I'm not here to celebrate that. I think in some ways, yeah, you when a team dominates and is excellent for a while, everybody's a hater of that team. It's just how it goes, But I guess maybe I'm just a little emotional. I'm a little empathetic because my Houston Astros, last season was a tough one for me. So maybe I'm having a little empathy for Chiefs fans, at least right now, this week. I don't know. I'm just saying, I guess also I'm not burying them yet. Maybe that's what I'm just, curbing my enthusiasm in case they come back. But, I'm not celebrating the Chiefs' loss as much as I'm celebrating the Texans' win. The Texans really did need this, no matter how the national media casts the teams this week. They're heroes as long as you're not from Kansas City, because people wanted this team to lose. So good for the Texans for stepping up in the national game and winning some fans, at least, temporarily there. But I'm not making an NFL Films narrative about this game, at least not until the season's over. I mean, at least mathematically, this was a great win. We can still celebrate it. It could be a pivotal win for the Houston Texans in the history of this season or even the history of this franchise. Sure, it could. It could. I mean, to quote the kid from Angels in the Outfield, it could happen. Yeah. I'm just saying I'm not trying to get too far ahead of ourselves. This was a good regular season win. It was much needed, and the Texans are headed in the right direction. Folks, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side of this break, we're going to talk a little bit more Texans, and we'll get to your Houston Rockets. We'll be right back.
H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
And we're back. Welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. I'm your irreverent host, Paul Salazar Jr. And let's talk a little bit more about your Houston Texans here as this A block bleeds over to the B, if you will. C.J. Stroud is back. There's been a lot being said. There's been a lot prognosticated about C.J. But he's back and looking good. Some skeptics will say, derogatorily that he put the game manager tag on him. But, I say if that's what you want, that's fine with me. I don't lose any sleep over CJ playing a bit of a game manager role this season, because with the defense that the Houston Texans have, with the O-line still adjusting and still, honestly, just still, while they're more competitive now, they're still getting consistent. They're still figuring a lot out on the offensive side. There's a new offensive coordinator. Maybe to help establish confidence, they just get this offense rolling before they're just taking a lot of big shots and putting a lot of pressure on this offense to perform. I don't mind it. I mean, People were just saying a couple of weeks ago how Davis Mills should be the quarterback of the Houston Texans. And these people, sure, they're misguided, a little crazy in my opinion, yes. But basically what they were saying is that the pinned back offense, the limited offense with a game manager type quarterback was yielding better results than the offense with CJ Stroud in there when, it's kind of pushing a little bit to do a little bit much. And maybe that's not exactly what some of these people were saying, but I think the root of their offense, that argument was that, whether they see it or not, because no one, I think people would be very foolish to say that Davis Mills was a more talented quarterback than CJ Stroud. I think that's the heart of that argument. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's just some fools out there. But, I think that's essentially what the argument was for Davis over CJ. And I'm just saying, so if that's good for Davis being the starter, then why is it not good for CJ Stroud as the starter there, playing a little more game managery for a bit? So I think there's people just like to complain. That's just how it goes. We all need to complain about something sometimes, I guess. Everybody needs complaining sometimes. That's right, folks. I'm back and I'm singing on the podcast. But I do think that maybe a game manager thing for CJ isn't bad. And he'll start growing in his confidence in this offense and calling audibles and figuring out how to carve up defenses. Right now, we just need to hold on to the ball, not turn it over, and score some touchdowns. On the other side of the ball, the defense, it looks unstoppable. People are even, maybe even historic. Look, I'm not trying to make NFL films here, but maybe I am. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. But this defense, if they can stay healthy and effective to the end of this season, I think this is going to be, we're going to look back at this season and remember it fondly if they can stay healthy and remain this effective. Because so far, this to this point in the season, this defense has been special and has been fun to watch. And I'm hoping they can stay healthy and stay effective here. This team needs to continue to roll and establish offensive consistency more than anything. And hopefully, Arizona should be an opponent that, provides opportunity to establish consistency on both sides of the ball. Look, I'm about to, I'm going to go political here, trying to be nice, of course. But, I do think the Texans, not to diminish our opponents, but the Arizona Cardinals just have been an inconsistent team. And the Texans will need to stay ready and play like contenders against this team and not be too lax. But this provides an opportunity to just keep rolling. The Texans are on a roll right now. They are on a winning streak, and they can continue if they show up ready against their next team. This team is starting to get some national attention, so be ready. There's going to be some bandwagon fans, of course, but also there's going to be some detractors, some people that really are upset that they are getting this national narrative. Some Colts fans, some Chiefs fans, of course, because we just beat them. Of course they're going to be salty. Of course, who wouldn't? So just, but also know that, like the Texans, they give you some fodder there because Aziz is our Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner, which he does great work in the community, but that that alone upsets plenty of people. But, if the Texans can strike while the iron is hot here, while they're returning to national attention, for better or worse here, that they can get a lot of bandwagon fans or detractors. So just be careful out there on the interwebs in the comment sections. Just don't comment, folks. You comment on my stuff, but proceed with caution as they're stepping into the limelight a little bit for being branded as chief killers here. In the AFC South, I mentioned the Jacksonville Jags are on top right now, and the Colts are not doing so well with the loss of their QB1, Danny Dimes, who's now injured, and this team kind of is caught dead in the water with their loss of momentum and their loss of their QB. It's a far cry from the start of this season for the AFC South and for Texans fans. We even busted out the panic meter on this podcast. Look, the meter was low. I just said say your prayers. I didn't overreact, but we did look at it after that many losses in a row. And now, I'm glad that we only checked in with it instead of just, let the panic meter go wild. I didn't overreact, at least too much, I hope. The long view here is like, the O-line panic, the play calling panic, the CJ Stroud QB1 panic. So much of that is starting to be quieted now, and parts of it are starting to look silly as this team is starting to get consistent, and they'll just have to remain consistent and keep this momentum. I know the season is still long from over, but, just try to remember not to let the negative Nellies get you down. Try to be reasonable and write it out with us here on the podcast. Because we know how emotional a season can be over here in H-Town. Moving on, let's talk about the Rockets real quick. The Rockets have had an up and down December so far, but overall are still looking like the highly competitive team that we've expected them to be. I'm just going to talk some losses up to figuring out rotations, not completely being healthy, losing some, obviously, Eason, some Jabari Smith for a little bit of time, Kevin Durant for a personal issue. Losing to the Jazz and the Mavericks is just going to make a frustrating week for this old Rockets fan, that's for sure. Those are not teams I'd like to lose to, especially when they should be winning those games. But, I'm just saying, I'm hoping that it's just a couple of, bad lineup glitches, some bad defensive glitches there, and that this team is going to bounce back. It's a lot to break down game by game since I missed so much in the last week. But, we're taking the broad view here. What lineup is your favorite right now? Do you want Reed in the starting lineup? Are you looking, you're waiting for Dorian Finney-Smith to get back healthy before we really have a solid lineup? What's your ideal? Who's your point guard? Are you going big? Are you going, double big, triple big? Do you like the pocket Rockets, getting maybe Aaron Holiday in the mix there? Let me know what your favorite lineup is. The Houston Rockets are looking to get right Thursday against the drama that is the LA Clippers, which, if you have been living under a rock, the LA Clippers unceremoniously cut ties with Chris Paul. There's been a lot of reports about how Chris Paul is just basically not the most liked guy. There's not a lot of people that have a lot of love for Chris Paul. He can rub people the wrong way. And it seems like he's rubbed the Clippers the wrong way in his kind of farewell tour year here. So, let me know. Where do you think Chris Paul is going to end up? There has been people and fans that are spitting out rumors about Chris Paul returning to the Rockets. I don't know if Chris Paul has any love for the Rockets or if that would be a decision that the Rockets front office could figure out a way to swing. I don't think that's happening. But I've been wrong on plenty of things in the past. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think the Chris Paul is looking to return to Houston or where you think he is going to end up. But yeah, I also think it could be a little bit of a detriment to the vibes that this team has. And for that reason alone, some of the vets are probably not going to want him around. But that being said, let's move on to the Houston Astros before we wrap up this podcast. The Houston Astros are in their winter meetings. They signed a pitcher from the KBO, the Korean Baseball Organization. Look, I know it's probably not a lot of stuff for people to write home about, but the Rockets, the Houston Astros need starting pitching with Framber Valdez, pretty much gone. We're not 100% sure, but we're like 99% sure Framber is gone from the Houston Astros. We need pitchers to eat innings. It's been a lot of people talking about it all over the place. I'm sure you've heard it before, but, behind Framber and Hunter Brown, the third pitcher on the innings pitched list, it was Ryan Gusto last season. So that we need pitchers, we need starting pitchers, and we need people to throw innings. So we got a starting pitcher from the KBO. Hopefully that'll help. The Dylan Cease rumors, didn't really come to fruition. I wasn't holding my breath, but Dylan Cease is not gonna go to the Astros, obviously. So the newest kind of rumor, the name in the rumor mill for the Houston Astros hot stove is Shane Baz from the Tampa Bay Rays. So the Astros are looking to start to accumulate starting pitching talent, and they're going to do it any which way they can. Speaking of trades, they could do a trade, and the name that is the hottest on the Houston Astros hot stove is none other than Jake the Rake. That's right, Jake from Rake Farm. Jake Meyers is getting interest from multiple teams in the league. He is a defensive plus center fielder. He might not have a great arm in center, but his range is absolutely amazing. He obviously had a great offensive year last season, and looks like maybe he can start piecing together a full offensive season. There's a lot of people that are looking for outfield talent in the league, and with the Houston Astros having a little bit of a logjam in the outfield, and a huge need at starting pitcher, they're kind of looking at the balance sheet, looking at the farm system, and thinking maybe we can cut ties with Jake if we get a good arm back in return. So I could see that there might be a market for Jake Meyers going to another team this season, or this offseason. If there's just a good arm that the team really values, I could see Jake leaving, and potentially Jacob Melton, or maybe even a combo of Zach Cole and Cam Smith potentially getting some more time in center field. Look, we don't know. This time last season, I don't think anybody would have guessed that Jose Altuve was going to get realistic time and reps in left field, nor did anybody think that the third base prospect from Chicago would play right field, would be like the opening day right fielder for the Houston Astros. So, there's plenty of time. This is just speculation right now, but, I do think that that there is a lot of interest in Jake Meyers, and at this point, at least here at the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, we're looking at Jake and saying goodbye. I think, based off of the needs of the Houston Astros, how many outfield prospects the team is looking to get some reps, with left field being blocked off essentially by Yordan Alvarez and Jose Altuve. I think they're going to move Jake Meyers if they get a good name on the hook for him. But we shall see if that market is what people are saying it is, or if it's just kind of a manufactured narrative or a manufactured story to try to get other teams to bite. We'll see. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think Jake Meyers is on the move, or if he'll start the season in an Astros jersey. And with that being said, that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast, the Paulcast, if you will. Please hit those buttons for me: like, rate, review, subscribe, share, bop it, kick it, skip it, smash all of those buttons for me. We are a small podcast and only go as far as our listenership takes us. We're supported by listeners like you, so please share us with a Houston fan or Australian in your life, and give us a 5-star rating on whatever podcast platform you listen to. Subscribe, automatically download, whatever you can do on that platform. Please do it for us. It really helps out a lot. Reach out on social media. Let me know what you think about Jake Meyers at Space Cadet Sports on social media, or call in. Leave us a voicemail on SpeakPipe. That's speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. Or comment on the Substack. That's right, check out the Substack. Once again, that's spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you can subscribe to support and tell me what you think. Let me know what you think of the takes here. Obviously, we are an anti-hard take podcast, but we want to discuss the ins and outs of the teams with you. Obviously, you can be a premium subscriber on the Substack there. That's just to help pay for things here at the podcast, get some treats for Carla. We try to get as much of the content out there for free and don't put too much behind a paywall. We keep the subscription premium options low, so hopefully it isn't too debilitating to support the podcast. If you want to support the podcast but don't want to do the Substack subscription, want to help buy me some diction lessons, you could do that by getting some merch. That's right, merch is here. We have aircraft carrier hats, Don't Sleep on Houston shirts, and Carla the dog hats in H-Town Blue. You can find that at paulsalazarjr.net, because I'm nothing but net, where you can find all the merch there to support me and Carla. If you've gotten this far, you might like me and my weird jokes and all the weird things that I do. You can find me personally making more weird jokes, memes, art, podcasts, and so much more on social media at Paul Salazar Jr. Once again, that's paulsalazarjr.net, where you can find my other Substack and all my other nonsense if you're nasty. Thanks so much for listening. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos Houston.
Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.